Ashley, Melanie, Kimberly, and Jessica, better known as the Pussycat Dolls.
She's a member of the hottest girl group on the planet. Kimberly Wyatt joins the Mile Fly Club to reveal what really went on.
I wanted to lead with sort of a lead singer and the rest of us. It's like a football team. Nicole was the quarterback.
I was the one singing.
But I knew what I was getting into, and I just sort of grit my teeth and went in and danced my booty off.
The fame,
This was a completely unprecedented group.
the controversies.
But people don't even know the story. They have no idea.
And I look at my phone, and it says, Nicole confirms that Pussycat Dolls tour is canceled. And I was like, what? So you always knew it was pretty cutthroat. But the feeling of being replaceable was definitely something that lasted throughout the group.
Now it's time to set the record straight.
When it all comes crashing down, it was a panic mode. Two of the girls, Robin and Nicole, have been suing each other ever since, and I really don't know what might happen next.
Welcome to the Mile Fly Club, your VIP lane to first-class travel tips, tell-all talk and turbulent life tales. Think the Mile High Club, only with more clothes, but no less revealing. Each week, I'll be inviting high-flying, globe-trotting guests to bear all in my club. So if you're searching for some tantalising travel tidbits and a good old gossip, you've arrived at the right destination. Now sit back, relax, and get ready to join me in the Mile Fly Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've now reached our cruising altitude. I'll go ahead and turn off the seatbelt sign, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like my next guest? Well, it's dull domination in the Mile Fly Club today, as I'll be chatting to a member of one of the most successful girl bands in the world. She's a dancer, singer, actress, talent show judge, mother, and of course, a Pussycat Doll. Welcome to the Mile Fly Club, Kimberly Wyatt.
Yay. Hello.
So great to be with you, Kimberly. Thank you so much for joining
My pleasure.
us.
Happy to be here.
Well, we've known each other since our jump days.
Oh my God, pre-wedding, pre-kids.
Yeah.
Well, you just had a cesarean, actually.
I had just had a cesarean and I ended up ski jumping, and I remember you giving my newborn baby Rocco at the time lovely little cuddles.
So
what
sweet.
an experience.
Yeah.
But that was back in 2000 and it must have been 2013.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
But I want to take us all the way back to 2004.
Oh, bring it back.
Where it all began for you.
That's right.
When that was the start of the Pussycat Dolls.
Yes, I
you.
believe that was the year that we launched Don't Ya, which became a worldwide smash.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, I
crazy.
remember. But in fact, we played a lot of the Pussycat Dolls tunes when we were doing the jump in our warm-up. I
Get you in
remember
the
that.
zone.
But before it was a recording group, it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a cabaret show.
Yeah, it was a cabaret burlesque inspired dance troupe, really, at Johnny Depp's Viper Room. So it's actually Johnny Robin, who's the creator of the Dolls, had brought this show that was quite burlesque and had corsets and fishnets and all sorts. And they were doing performances at the Viper Room when Johnny Depp owned it. And he loved it and said, you've got to give this a name. So Robin went away and came back with the Pussycat Dolls. And Christina Applegate, being one of her best mates, ended up being sort of the host and MC of the show. And it just sort of evolved and started bringing in a lot of different celebrity guests to come and sing and perform.
Big names, right? Gwen
big
Stefani,
Yeah.
Carmen Electra,
Yeah.
Christina Aguilera.
Yeah. Brittany Murphy, Charlize Theron, Britney Spears. I mean, just about everybody did the show. But it was Gwen Stefani that came and did the show and loved it so much. She brought her label with Jimmy Iovine. And when they saw it, they could see how they could kind of give it a bit of a rejig and make it recording group. So about a year and a half later, we were signed and ready to start figuring out what the Pussycat Dolls look like as a recording group.
So how did you become part of the group in the first place?
Well, funnily enough, I was sort of doing lots of film and television work as a dancer mostly, and went to an audition for, at the time, it was MTV Newlyweds with Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey.
Yeah.
And so I was auditioning, and it happened to be that Robin, the creator, was a choreographer at the audition. And she loved what I was doing and gave me a call that night and said, Nick and his team would love for you to come and dance with him and perform. But also I've got this group, Pussycat Dolls. Would you be interested in coming and doing some shows with us? And having been a young dancer, I could see all these articles on the walls about this cool new underground show that Justin Timberlake was a huge fan of and Christina Aguilera was performing with. And I was like, what is this? Like, I'm so curious. So at the time I was like, well, I could take on another gig. Let's give it a go.
I mean, that just must have been like, you can't believe that must have been happening to you.
It was kind of crazy. I guess I didn't know what I was getting myself in for, but I'll never forget some of the first shows. I think one of the biggest first shows I did was at this electronics convention called E3, and it's quite a big thing. And Carmen Electra, I mean, she was like one of the leads of the groups for over 10 years. And she was performing with us, as well as one of my favorites, Pink. And so Pink was coming
just
to perform.
Just a bit of name dropping
there.
there.
Oh my God.
A bit more name dropping.
And I'll never forget getting all glammed up with the hair and the makeup and the costume and that curtain open. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like a rock star. This is the life. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. It was like I felt so empowered on stage. I could feel sexy. We could just get lost. And it just felt really powerful sharing the stage with all these phenomenal females.
So what was it really like, you know, at the height of it all, dealing with that kind of fame?
Yeah, I mean, it was full on because Don't Ya was a song that was proven to be a smash hit on radio in the States. It was number one requested song at radio, but it wasn't selling. So I knew this song worked. And so the label put everything behind it to then pull the song, have us record Don't Ya, and go in for this video. We went in the video as the Pussycat Dolls we knew and came out with braids, and I had a mohawk and sort of became these alter egos. So I was all of a sudden punk doll rocking out in this music video with CeeLo Green and Busta Rhymes. And quite quickly, that song just went, you know, stratospheric around the world. So it was just as soon as I remember coming to London for the first time and just people screaming outside the hotels and just doing every show under the sun around the world.
So it was that song that catapulted you
my
and
gosh,
then took you on the road and that was it, you were travelling.
Yeah.
So where was the first place you travelled to?
I want to say it was London. I'm pretty sure it was like, because London in the UK became almost a second home for Pussycat Dolls. They seemed to just get it straight away. The fans just knew, gave us so much love. And so it was from going to the UK, then we were all over Australia and Europe and Canada and just, Asia. We just went everywhere.
Where was your favourite place to go to with the group?
Well, funny enough, one of my favorite memories performing with the Dolls was Manchester because they were such loud fans. So it was one of my, I just will always remember how loud everybody was. But exotic, couldn't believe it, was sort of Malaysia. Malaysia was just gorgeous.
I've never been there.
It was amazing. I just, it felt like you're just in a completely other world. And it was just really tropical and... yeah, it was just amazing.
But your fans in Manchester, you think, were the biggest and kind of most supportive?
Yeah, I would always look forward to coming to Manchester. Glasgow is another one that I just always loved. And of course, being an American girl, I wasn't that familiar with the UK. So all I knew it was how the fans would react towards us doing the shows. And yeah, like Manchester, Glasgow, they were the loudest around the world.
So Don't Ya was obviously the biggest hit that was out there. But Lady Gaga's debut single, Just Dance, was that on the cards as well as potentially being a song of yours?
Funny enough, back in the day, Gaga was sort of signed to the label to write songs for the Pussycat Dolls. So she came on board and was writing songs under the label, but of course, ultimately wanting to carve her own path. So we'd heard of this Lady Gaga girl, didn't know much about her. And yeah, later came to transpire that Just Dance was written for Pussycat Dolls, but our team passed on it. And so she took it and went with it. And then soon enough, she's opening for us in our tour. She was our opening act for quite some time, launching Just Dance. Yeah.
Wow. So the dynamics of any group can be kind of quite interesting. I was actually, not many people probably remember this, but I was part of a little group myself.
Were you?
The Fun Song Factory. I mean, it wasn't quite as cool as the Pussycat Dolls, but I was Melody.
That is amazing.
The musical one with Aston.
Yes.
Marigold.
Oh, this is coming back to me. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Yes.
We sung things like 10 fat sausages sizzling in a pan. I'm sure it would give Docha a run from it.
The kids would go crazy.
But, you know, the dynamics in any group can be quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to set the record straight and kind of dynamics in the group of the Pussycat Dolls. Just tell me a bit about
this is as much as dynamics in the group, as a whole, this was a completely unprecedented group because we were the first group ever signed to a 360 deal. We were the guinea pigs of what now is the roadmap of sort of any artist that's getting signed to a big record deal. Before, they'd only sort of share profits in album sales, and you could do all your merchandise and touring and everything, where this was very much a partnership between the brand, Robin Anton and Pussycat Dolls, and the label. So they had sort of buddied up 50-50, and then below that, we were signed basically as castmates to a recording contract, almost rather than artists. So it was done, the whole structure of it was much different. But for me, you know what, it was living the dream, and I knew that contract that I signed way back when wasn't exactly the best contract. Yeah. But I also knew this was a stepping stone, and for me, it was worth sort of seeing where it would take me and using this beautiful experience as a stepping stone to see what would come next. And of course, as it progressed, it was all, it became very difficult for sure because of the scale of what we were up against and the amount of work we were doing around the world and what was required. You know, I use my body as an instrument. I'm a dancer. So doing all the leg lifts and working the way that I do, yeah, it was tough, but at the same time, I lived the dream. Like, I have no regrets. And
it's really interesting hearing you say, like, first of all, when you signed up to the contract, you were like, oh, wasn't the best contract.
We knew.
Because it was kind of the same for me. It was like, okay,
yeah,
not on the same scale
sure,
as a Kids TV presenter, but joining this little band and kind of thinking, well, I'm signing my life away in many respects, but I just want to see this as an opportunity. I want to roll with it. So the girls that you were obviously put together with, did you know each other before you were put together as a band, or was it very much kind of thrown in, here's the dynamics, here's the mix, figure it out?
Well, in the beginning, there was over 12 girls in the group. So there was a sort of the lead cast who'd been doing Maxim and lots of front covers of magazines and stuff. And they were sort of led by Carmen Electra. And so then there was a few newbies coming through. And as the recording group was signed, there was a lot of changes made. And so you always knew it was pretty cutthroat. And I've always told the story about, you know, in Don't Ya, I knew I was on the chopping block. Like, I had to work really hard to show that I was, you know, worthy of being in the group. I had acne because of stress and anxiety of, you know, the label letting go of all these different girls. And, you know, could you make the cut? Like, I felt like I had to prove myself. And I couldn't get my skin under control. So I knew going into Don't Ya, I was on the chopping block. And most of the big group routines or the big group moments I'm not in, because she wanted Robin was sort of, you know, wanted to make sure that if we needed to make cuts, it could still happen.
How did that make you feel, though?
Like I needed to be a warrior and prove that you couldn't do this without me. And that there was just, for me, I felt like I was destined to be in this group, and I didn't want anybody to take that away from me. But the feeling of being replaceable was definitely something that lasted throughout the group for its entirety. But like I said, I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was a stepping stone, and I knew that I was meant to be in Don't Ya. And when I came out with that mohawk and became this punk doll thing, I was like, I am going to roll with this. And so I just sort of grit my teeth and went in and danced my booty off and did everything I could to create real moments in the video that would help the band become iconic. So I felt like each one of us girls had a role to play, and I could very much envision what my role was. And so I was sliding down banisters and doing these huge jumps on the trampoline to try and get these brilliant shots, and in this crowd doing all these crazy things. But it was the banister thing that I was like, this could be really cool, because it was just the highest banister with the biggest drop. It was like, well, I couldn't guess, but a very big drop. And I had these heels on. They were a little bit big. I would never complain about the shoes. You just go for it. And so we did this choreography. It came down the stairs, and then you'd go into this group choreography at the bottom with loads of different people around. So at the top, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get on the banister. I'm going to slide down my stomach.
This
down
is
the
why you were so good at the jump, Kimberly.
This is where it all began. So I'm going to slide down this banister with this mohawk. I could just see it. And then get off, get to my spot, and do the dance routine. But in the midst of blocking it, my heels came off as I was coming off the banister, trying to stay in time and get in my place and like nail it. So I thought at the time this was like the walkthrough, but they'd filmed it. So I do the whole dance in my socks. And I'm like, well, at least we got that one done. Go back and like smash each one out. But just so happens that they kept the one in my socks.
I'm going to have to watch the video.
So in this little dance formation, I slide down the banister and all these group routine. I'm just back there dancing in my socks.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch it. So you actually you got back together, didn't you? So the band split.
Well, we didn't split actually. Right before COVID, we were headed for a world tour, and I worked really hard because I felt like it just didn't feel like it was over, and I just wanted to make sure that we could end it on a really positive note. So worked really hard to help bring it back together. It took like 2.5 years to get everybody sort of on the same page and ready for a big world tour. So excited. But in the midst of that, found out that I had a very surprise pregnancy about 2 weeks after I'd signed this contract.
What did it look like bringing everyone sort of back together? Because obviously, like, Ashley's off doing her thing, Nicole's off doing her thing, Carmeet's off doing her. You're a mum to two, well, 3 now, but 2 got like, what was that like?
I mean, we all knew we would have to make sacrifices to make it work, and we all had our own lives going on. So we're looking at doing it a bit healthier in a way that we could go out for 2 weeks and come home for 1 or 2 weeks, go out for 2 weeks, which would extend the tour. We'd probably be going for a good 1.5 years to make sure we could visit all the places around the world. But we could still sort of keep up to date with what we were doing. And I had made deals with the school that we could do remote learning. Kids were really young at the time. So it's like, we just found a way that we could make it work. Then, of course, like a surprise pregnancy changes things quite a bit. But I was just like...
So you had no idea?
No idea. I was just started feeling really ill. And it was just, pregnancy was so far from something that we were looking at doing. I just felt like that could not be it. But Max was like, I'm going to go get your pregnancy test. Let's just try it out and just make sure we can just strike it off the list and then go figure out what's wrong with you. So I come back and do the pregnancy test and it comes up like 5+. I'm like, oh my God, I am not just pregnant, I'm quite pregnant. And so then I was looking at it like, how am I going to make this work? So then
Did you tell any of the other girls at this point?
No, I didn't tell anybody at this point. I was still trying to figure out, what I was going to do. And so then it turned out, I worked out the timings that if I had to have a cesarean because it was my 3rd and they didn't want me trying naturally. So I did the cesarean, and then 7 weeks afterwards, I was in rehearsals and doing the X Factor reunion performance.
And I remember seeing you on stage and you were insane, like incredible.
Thanks, mate.
But and I love that because much like
yes,
I was on those
exactly.
skin slopes. Not saying it's the safest thing to do after
No,
a cesarean,
it's not.
But I think it's great that. So then obviously the girls knew that you were having you'd had Senna and you were like going to be going on tour. Yeah. How did that all go down? Like what happened next?
Well, so
was there anyone that was funny about it? Or were they like, oh, this is not going to work?
Nobody was fun. I think there was a photo shoot that happened and they were going to shoot somebody else's body and put my head on it.
What? No way.
So that was the only funny thing that happened. But luckily the photo of me was never released.
They were going to shoot someone else's body with your head on it.
Yeah.
That's so not cool.
Not going to say I didn't I wasn't that cool with it, but at the same time, I knew how difficult it was to get this thing going. And having been a part of getting this thing going, the last thing I wanted to do was create any sort of roadblock. So I was certainly up for it and let it happen. But then it came back. I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, I just can't do it. So there was a photo shoot that happened. All the girls look amazing, but I just wasn't in. And when it came time for rehearsal, I just entered and just wanted to make sure that it just wasn't a problem and that I just sort of showed up and did my work. And my gorgeous husband, Max, was there throughout all of it with little baby Senna, and we'd set our alarms so that it was time to breastfeed, and he'd bring him over, and whether I was in a meeting, they'd filmed everything, whether I was in a meeting with all the girls talking about how we were going to do it or
And what was that like when you all got back together for the first time and you were sat in a room? Did you sort of feel like then there were any egos or?
Well, we all showed up. We were in the first room together 5 days before our first big reunion performance without any plans about what we were doing, how we were doing it, nothing. So it was quite a flying by the seat of our pants. Let's make this happen. So if anything, it was just really nostalgic. All of us just couldn't believe we'd finally gotten it over the line, and the fact that we were all on the same page enough to move forward with it, and just excited to make it the best it could possibly be.
And then what?
And then we just got stuck into rehearsal and just made it happen and started rehearsing. Nicole brought React to the plate and made it clear that as a group we were going to move forward as a team, and it was going to be this wonderful new experience, which was everything that I'd hoped for and sort of the reason that I really got behind wanting to do the reunion in the first place, was to just make it a really lovely environment. So we went for the big first performance, and it went off with a bang, and it was amazing, and it was massive, and Nicole was certainly sort of leading with her management team.
Did you find that Nicole was often trying to lead a lot?
Yeah. I mean, she was put in that position way back when with the label, is they'd seen it with Carmen Electra and
Did she have
the
a
group.
different label then? Is that?
No, it was all the
Oh,
same
she's got-
label, but
right.
her management sort of took leadership of the Pussycat Dolls, basically.
Right.
And they wanted to lead with sort of a lead singer, and the rest of us, they sort of said it's like a football team. You have a quarterback and you have a receiver. Nicole was the quarterback, which we were fine with. But, soon the spotlight should open, but the spotlight never did.
Yeah.
But, like I said, I knew it was I'd signed up for. And ultimately in the beginning, when I realized just the amount of work and exposure and money didn't lean into the happiness and mental health that I needed, that's when I had to make a change and leave, and did that. But to bring it all back together
So
with the hope.
you left again after React came out?
No, so that was in the beginning, the
Right.
first round. So that was sort of set me up for wanting to make this a different experience, and was very hopeful for that. But ultimately, we had the world tour. I mean, there was Glastonbury on the cards. It was going to be an absolute dream. And COVID hit. And it was literally the Monday that we all went into lockdown was the Monday the girls that were living in LA had flown over to start our first day of our 3 weeks of rehearsal to do our world tour.
So they were flying over from LA?
Literally landed with all their bags, checked into their hotel, and most all of them then literally had to turn around that day and fly back, because we were especially worried that they weren't going to be allowed back into the country and all sorts. So a few of them even left their bags thinking, we'll be back in a few weeks once this blows over. 3 years later, I remember being in lockdown. I was just trying to keep myself in the game and raising all 3 kids. And every Sunday, or was it every day? I think it was every day at 12:30 during the week, I would do a live dance class and teach some Pussycat Dolls routines and just keep things going. I'd see these dates come and go. I was like, God, we were supposed to be playing Glastonbury on this date.
How did that work? As a recording artist, if you'd committed, I mean, presumably there was finances that had come in. And
Mate, you open up, you end lots of your work to open up all this space to go on the road. So of course, when it all comes crashing down, it was a panic mode. 3 young kids, we're paying for school fees, all these things. I mean, it completely changed our world. We've had to rejig our entire life because of it.
And what were the discussions that were had amongst the band following that? Was it we're going to pick up after COVID, or we done? Or
we assumed that we would pick up after COVID. Because usually that means that the dates are just postponed. So we're just waiting for those new dates to come in, which kept me in the gym and working and making sure I still kept the routines ready to go. But then because there was a bit of a situation where the new dates needed to be launched, but they couldn't until business had been sorted. And then it's basically 2 of the girls, Robin and Nicole, have been suing each other ever since and just waiting for a resolve. And I really don't know what might happen next. But yeah, it's
so
just sort
you
of...
still don't know.
I remember, so I finally ended up doing Dancing on Ice, strapping on those skates, getting ready to get back to it. And right before the first live show, I'm on the ice, walking through my routine, stepping through, trying to stay in the game. And I look at my phone, and it says Pussycat Dolls canceled, or Nicole confirms that Pussycat Dolls tour is canceled. And I was like, what? How am I finding this out on the phone? Like, I've not heard of this. So part of me just didn't want to believe it. But then,
so you were hearing about things through the press, not even through like, Robin.
Yeah. So right before the first live show, I just like bawled my eyes out thinking all this that I've made all this space for in life, been waiting for these new dates, just all came crashing down. And I didn't even find out, sort of in the proper way. I felt like such an afterthought.
But did you really believe that it actually was true? Because when you read it in the press, you're like, is this happening? Like, did you not want to pick up the phone and call Robin and go, what, like...
I think I did probably pick up the phone and call Robin, which is when I found out that it had been canceled. And she was super apologetic. It definitely didn't go down in the way that it should have, but it was confirmed. Like, there was I guess the two girls couldn't come to an agreement with all sorts of things, which people can find out online. But yeah, it's still sort of ongoing. Everybody says never say never.
How does that make you feel about Nicole?
I mean, listen, the thing that I've learned over the years is that women need to support women.
100%.
And so I try and stay in a space of just trying to, give the benefit of the doubt and just stay in a supportive place. Because if I get bitter and angry, which I have been, it doesn't really do anything good for me or my mental space. So, anybody can make their own choices, but when they start really affecting you and your space, and especially when you're raising 3 kids, I've got a lot to protect. So ultimately, I would like to say never. I just have no idea where headspace is, and communication is incredibly difficult. But we did something amazing together, and what we've left, the legacy of the Pussycat Dolls and the empowerment we would inspire around the world through our music and through our performances was phenomenal.
And I think that's in a way what's so sad, because as women, like, I'm loving hearing you say women support women. I'm all like,
yes.
Absolutely, let's build each other up, let's lift each other. So when you've had those experiences together, I bet you just want to pick up the phone and go, listen, Nicole, like, we need to be here for each other.
I think it goes across the board, just as, first 360 deal in the industry, and just how the balance of power and control sort of went, especially of those times. I think we live in much different times now. And there's space to not feel like you have to compete or dim other people's lights in order to shine the brightest. I think when you welcome other people's power and empower one another, together you shine even brighter. And so I'm just going to keep putting that out there, because I feel like that's where I live. And it doesn't feel conducive to try and point a finger at anybody really at this point.
There was something that was said, and I don't know if you can clear it out for us. Nicole apparently said that she played the Pussycat Dolls, the first album, and then you guys came in and heard it. Is that true?
There was a listening party for all of us involved, but I would say that it would be unfair to all the members of the group to say that it sort of went down in that way. Especially in the beginning, Melody and Carmit were sort of second leads for that whole first album. And they're very much in the studio, very much part of it. For me, myself, my role was dance first. So, and I'm very proud of that. Don't feel like I have to feel ashamed of being a dancer singer. There's a lot of power in that, and it brings a lot to the group. But again, I think that's where you got to hold a space for your bandmates, and you think you should go to bat for them rather than make it seem like there's only one important person.
Do you ever watch back videos of like Pussycat Dolls performances, and like there might have been a bit of upset between 2 people, and you're like, oh, like you remember like that person's looking at that person, and it brings back memories?
Yeah, it does. And the fun, like, I guess the positive spin for me on it, because I've done a lot of work on it, is that even when there was moments of animosity, especially as a dancer and running my own dance academy, if you can use that anger in a way that's conducive to that performance, what it can do to you as an artist and as a dancer is pretty phenomenal. So I guess it's taking those animosities and making them work for you. And I guess that's why with my dance academy, I talk a lot about emotions, and I work with the Youth Sport Trust, and I look at ways of teaching dancers and artists how to bring in emotions and use them, because I think it's very therapeutic, and you can do so much more with it rather than getting lost in in the hate.
Absolutely. Wow, look, it is a travel podcast, so it sounds like there has been a bit of turbulence.
Of course. There always is, isn't there? Every
Along the
good
way.
story.
I think it's amazing, like, you know, your positivity, and I'm all for that, like, you know, glass half full or whatever, seeing the good in people. But do you realistically think there is a future for the Pussycat Dolls when there are two people that are in this legal battle?
The legal stuff, that's where you feel quite powerless because nothing can move forward until that has an ending. They have to come to an amends. But ultimately, I feel really in my power of I just don't want the legacy of what we built together to go out down in flames of two women fighting each other. So I do still sit in this place of feeling like wanting to find ways to glue it back together in whatever way that means, whatever way that looks. Like, I don't know what the future of the Pussycat Dolls hold, and I don't know if I have the power to make anything happen, but I'm always looking for opportunity to bring girls back together where you can show that you can support each other and support each other's power. So that's always my focus. And I do look at different projects, and I am in talks with, you know, Robin mostly and the girls and sort of Nicole. And I just hope that
What do you mean, sort of, Nicole?
She's very elusive and very busy. She is very busy. And I don't, you know, it's hard to find out where she is with what she wants to do next and where she stands with the group. And I mean, she's allowed to do whatever she wants, but I just would like for a finish to happen so that whoever does stand with the Pussycat Dolls can stand with the Pussycat Dolls and create a legacy that we can feel proud of.
So could you continue on with the Pussycat Dolls without Nicole?
Well, that is not my choice to make because I don't own the group.
Of course.
Yeah.
As in, like, but the brand, like, you know.
The brand could.
You
It could. But I don't own the brand, so I can't.
Yeah.
And the same with, like, it's not my choice to make, and I'm glad that I'm not in that position of having to make those choices. But at the same time, there's a lot of women in the group that probably don't get the stage or the opportunity as much as some do, that do have incredible talent to share and should get the opportunity to do that.
Well, you do share your incredible talent.
Thanks,
and
babes.
you are sharing it. I mean, look, first of all, what advice would you give to an aspiring pop star?
The world has changed so much since we were a band / brand. And luckily
Do you see yourself as a band or a brand? Like,
both, I think that it's a blurred line. I think especially because of the 360 deal, it was very much a brand as well as a band. And there's lots of controversy, but I do say we used our body as instruments. And so therefore we couldn't be called a brand and we can be called a band. But a lot of people see that saying a band is only if you have instruments. So, I mean, there's controversy. We could do a whole podcast just about brands and bands, I think. But I think luckily with social media, you can't be controlled and sort of not given a chance to have a platform and opportunities to be seen outside of the group. Thank goodness, because as much as you've got to put your heart and soul into what you're doing, you've also got to make sure that you look after you as well. And I think, gosh, in this world, ultimately you need to own your power. I think it's why I have a dance academy, is teaching kids to own their power. Because there's going to be a lot of moments where you have to make serious choices and you need to know your morals and where your line is and not be afraid to say no. And it's a really difficult thing to learn to be powerful enough to say no. But that no is sometimes needed.
And that comes with age, though.
It really does. You're just so eager to please and want to make a name for yourself and go out there and have opportunities that it can sometimes cloud your vision. But I think luckily with all the stuff that's coming on earth about especially LA with Me Too and Diddy and all sorts, I think the power of no is incredibly important.
It is a travel podcast, so we have to talk about travel and the fact that you were born in Missouri.
Yes.
But you now live in the UK.
I do.
And you're married to Max.
Yes.
Gorgeous Max, and you have 3 beautiful children.
I do.
So was it Max that brought you to the UK?
Well, it was the Pussycat Dolls that brought me to the UK
The fans from Manchester brought you to the UK.
It. And then it was Got to Dance. I was a judge on Got to Dance for 5 years on Sky, which I loved and met so many amazingly talented people. So that kept me coming back. I was sort of spending half my time in LA because I lived in LA for 10 years. So I was living there, spent half my time in America, half my time in the UK. And then I was doing Closed Show Live. Don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
So Closed Show Live in Birmingham. I was doing main stage. At the time I was doing a electro band called Her Majesty and the Wolves. So I was a special guest performer amongst a cast of like 20 models and 20 dancers. It was an absolute dream with Andy Turner, who I love. And so I would do my performance. At the end, they had a big finale that they'd all walk the runway, and it was just amazing. And my gorgeous friend BB, so beautiful, Anthony K, who I'd met doing a Pussycat Dolls video, J-Ho, and just thought he was so beautiful. He was in the show as well, dancing and modeling. And he's like, you have to meet my friend Max. He's just gorgeous and so sweet and so nice. So he introduced us. And then he decided that I needed to be in the finale, even though I wasn't. So he grabbed my hand, dragged me on stage.
Max grabbed you on
This was
stage.
BB.
Oh,
Drags me on stage. And Max was sort of the lead person amongst the whole cast to walk the runway. So he threw me to Max, and Max walked me down the runway. And that's sort of how we met.
Wow. So you were like put together and introduced down the catwalk before you were
Introduced
officially
on the
a couple.
catwalk. And then a few months later came for the rap party in Soho. And sort of that's when Max and I really started chatting, and we were at Freedom nightclub in Soho downstairs, and just as we thought we'd found a nice little dark corner, he's going in for the kiss. We realize as the spotlight comes on and Don't Just starts playing that we're actually on a stage.
No way.
So it was like our lips were just right there. I was like, oh my God, get up and perform. Play
did
it off.
you?
Yeah.
Did you drag him up on stage to perform
No,
with
he
you?
sulked in the corner in the darkness, being like, "Oh my God, we didn't realize that was going to happen."
Oh, I mean, like, you're such an amazing person, Kimberly. You're such great energy, and
Thanks,
you
babe.
have done so much.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, but not only being part of this global sensation, the Pussycat Dolls, but you act.
Yeah.
I've seen you. You know, you're a judge. You're a mum, you're a wife, you've got your dance school, your parents, they
Yeah.
must be so proud of you. What do they think of it all?
Gosh, I guess it's been quite a whirlwind. So my parents are back in Missouri, and my dad's health is sort of not been very great, but I know that they're in awe of everything that I've gone on to do. And unfortunately, I have a bit of a strained relationship with my parents, and they haven't really been that close in my life for a very long time. But at the same time, just a lot of experiences as a kid that didn't make me feel so safe. So if anything, I've done a lot of work on forgiveness and knowing that sort of the experiences I probably shouldn't have had to face gave me a lot of power to run, which I ran to go to LA and work and find my way in life.
At what age did you sort of leave then?
17.
Right.
So I graduated early from high school, and at 17 found auditions in Las Vegas, went to Vegas and started auditioning and worked on cruise ships for my first few years, realized that I've got really bad sea legs.
So cruising's not your thing
Oh,
then?
it's not my thing, even though I did a good year and a half on cruise ships. Saved a bit of money. But the dream was always film and television, and I always knew I wanted to go to LA. So packed my bags, drove myself to LA, and started auditioning, and then ended up living there for 10 years. And yeah, it's a bit estranged, but we've sort of started to try and be in contact and whatnot. And
Are they close to your children?
No, they've only met him a few times. Yeah.
So that must be quite hard as well, because I think,
It
as
is.
a mum of 3 children, the support network
The support, yeah.
that you kind of need. I mean, I know you're very good friends with Zoe
Yes,
Harvin,
thank
who's
goodness.
been on the Mile
Love
Fly
her.
Club too. But you're also very close to Ashley. Does
Yeah.
she help out with the kids at all?
She's Auntie Ashley. When Senna couldn't say Auntie, he calls her naughty Ashley.
I'm sure she is naughty.
But yeah, I find a lot of love within my friends and the people that I keep around me, because I don't have that support system that many people have in their parents. And I mean, my mom's had loads of experiences that I can rationalize why it came to the point that it did. But yeah,
Can you
it's
share
sort of
with that
missing.
at all? Share a bit about that at all?
Well, my mum's mum ran away when she was 2 years old, and they never found her again. And she was raised on food stamps, and they paid lots of money on a private investigator that they just never found her ultimately. And there was different stories that went around about what might have happened, but none of us have ever found out. And so my mum sort of married when she was 16 and lived a bit of a naughty life for a while. And I think her self-esteem and a lot of things were just incredibly low. And
So was the man she married at 16 your dad?
that was my brother's dad. Yeah. And then they got divorced and she married my dad and had me.
Kimberly, you know, you've been a part of one of the most successful groups worldwide.
Yeah.
Who do you rate, like, musically as a girl band?
Well, I mean, a huge inspiration growing up, especially because I was a music video girl. I loved watching the music videos. It was like the biggest inspiration to get into it. And En Vogue was one of the biggest.
We are mad!
Walking that runway, strutting.
I'm not a member of the girl group.
And TLC, like freaking loved TLC. Waterfalls, what a tune.
But what do your kids listen to?
So my kids do love Little Mix. I mean, we really liked Fifth Harmony. Sad to see them go.
Okay.
But they were great. And yeah, I mean, the Spice Girls, I mean, everybody likes to spice up their life. So gotta rate them. I think that they sort of blazed a trail for the Pussycat Dolls, if anything. So yeah, love them all.
What do your children think about the fact their mum is a pussycat doll?
Do you know, in the beginning of taking, especially my oldest, to school, she used to turn on, especially when I grow up, and try and turn it really loud as I was driving her to school. And I'd be like, oh, babe, turn it down, because I can be quite shy anyway, especially in lots of people I don't know. So yeah, I think that they do kind of wear it as a little badge of honor here and there. And I'll hear that at school people know, well, her mom is Kimberly Wyatt. And
So
I'm
how
like,
does
but
that-
I'm Kimberly Rogers to you.
Yeah. But, you know, on the school dropping the kids off, how is that? You know, do you get other parents kind of looking over when
I
in a
guess
cheeky
there's
photo?
been times, but I think now, having lived in our little Surrey bubble for as long as we have, it just feels normal. And I feel like Max and I used to talk about there's nothing more leveling than a school run, because no matter what you do, we're all in it together. We're all doing the breakfast and the bedtimes and the dealing with kids and stuff. So I think to a certain extent, it's a bit of a leveler. I think the younger they are, the more influential the parents will be like, oh my God, this is a Pussycat Doll. Or I hear the little
Yeah, I mean, like, their
whispers
mum's a
and stuff.
pussycat doll and their dad's a catwalk fashion model. I mean,
Model.
they are some pretty cool parents.
That's it. I mean, we'd like to think so.
Yeah. So you were planning on taking the children on your tour with the
Yeah.
Pussycat Dolls. What kinds of other holidays do you like to go on with them?
Well, you know, we just went to Portugal and it was amazing. So for the longest time, you know, having to make lots of changes. We couldn't really go abroad with the kids. We needed to sort of just stay put and take care of stuff for a bit. So we would go to Isle of Wight.
Is that because you were too worried about traveling abroad with the kids, or you just had stuff to sort back?
Just had stuff to sort back, and traveling with 3 kids and the expense of getting them here and there. It was a lot. And we had to overcome quite a lot from everything being canceled. So we would just stay put, really, and visit Wales so many times, and did wild camping, and went to Isle of Wight, and really just tried to experience the UK and Devon, and like just see everything that we could, and had some brilliant holidays. But of course, always wanted to get abroad with the kids and get some sunshine. And yeah, we went to Portugal, and it was just divine. We had the best time.
Whereabouts did you go in Portugal?
Val de Lobo. Yeah, and all around there.
Look, your dance school, I want to hear a bit more about that. And I'm actually super keen to bring my daughter to it. Do you
yes.
teach those kids that high kick?
Obviously.
Can you teach me?
The legacy.
Yes. I
Come
mean,
to the school, I'll teach you, babe.
how do we? I couldn't even. Do you know? I think I've got one leg that's a bit more flexible than the other.
Yeah,
My
probably.
left leg, I can. Where did that even begin? How did you even figure out you could do that?
I guess in the beginning I was just dancing loads, and especially it was ballet mostly. Taking ballet classes and learning. Maybe I could kick. I had okay flexibility. I couldn't go all the way down in the splits. I had some ways to go. But it was ballet, just learning how to use those muscles and support the leg to be able to get it where it needed to go.
Yeah, but not everyone can do that, Kimberly. I mean, come on, ballet. I went to ballet. I couldn't do that.
And vigilant teachers and competitions. And I think when you see other kids, especially around the States, that were doing these unbelievable moves, you just feel motivated to take the torture of stretching, which then you turn into a meditation of just sitting in these poses and allowing and mindfully telling your body, it's okay, let it go. You can get lower and lower and lower. And I think just the love of dance, I think ultimately is what spawned me on to be able to do those things.
So do you still do that like now?
I
Regularly?
still
You'll
stretch, yeah.
those.
Well, teaching the kids and stuff, I find it difficult to teach without showing. I'm very much like a visual person. So we teach everything from street to ballet and everything in between. I've got a brilliant faculty of teachers that come in as they're experts in the field for their classes, and all ages, from minis, juniors, intermediate, advanced. We've got it all covered. And I also have my invite class. So on a Thursday night, the kids that I feel, because I feel like there's something to be said about bridging the gap between dance school and being a working dancer. So if I see a kid that just has that buzz about them that I feel could go all the way, then I invite them to my private studio at my house, and I work with them and help them develop their flexibility and their strength and give them opportunities on stages.
What an opportunity. They must be thinking, I'm being taught by Kimberly.
I think I always like the first time they come, there is a bit like, because it's in my home and it's, it's really warm and welcoming. We keep all the parents in the dining room and we've got all of our kittens and cats running around. So it's quite family oriented, but I could just see the look on their eyes and the nerves and the quietness that comes in on that first day. But by the end of it, I always seem to be able to pull the confidence and find that spark to get them out of that shyness.
That, being able to kind of give that back and give...
It's the purpose work, There's so much in the world that is so difficult and negative and all of that. So when you go to the purpose work and can find, I feel my purpose is to inspire others and inspire those dancers to find that. So being able to get that space and create that, it's kind of that's what drives me.
What about your children? Do you see in them potential to be future models and dancers?
You can't help but see the best in your kids, can you?
Would you want them to pursue? I mean, how would you feel if your daughters turned around to you and said, Mum, we're going to join a dance group?
Well, the thing is,
group.
I always was like, when I was pregnant, I was like, architecture, scientists, any of those sorts of things. Let's go in a different direction. But they came out dancing, so I can't help that. And I've got to be the shepherd, They kind of choose it and you've got to follow. And I guess ultimately it's their love for dance that's inspired me to want to set up the dance school. And now we're taking it to the next level with our competition team. So it's going to be the first year we're doing competitions. And I can see just the spark in them, even having a competition. We do shows. We do a Christmas show and a summer showcase. But I think there's something about, and I was a competition kid, I can just see the spark as they're getting into rehearsals and getting their costumes and knowing they're going into this space of comps, that I just see this next level of stepping up with their training. I'm like, okay. So even if they don't become dancers, they love it for now. And I know that everything they're learning, from battling their nerves or just expressing themselves or just finding their space and feeling powerful in their space, is just going to do great things for whatever they choose to do. Because, my little Maple, she loves to dance, but she's also a brilliant footballer. So you just never know.
What about cooking? Are any of them good at cooking like their mum?
Well, Maple does love cooking as well. She's really helpful.
Won.
I did.
You won, Master.
I
love it. You go into everything. I'm like, I'm going to nail it. I'm going to win it. So, yeah, you won MasterChef.
I did win MasterChef.
How was that experience?
It was amazing. Well, the thing was, I couldn't cook to save my life. And I just had a baby, our first one, Willow. And I was like, I'm going to have to learn some skills. The realization of cooking 3 meals a day was sudden. And so I felt like MasterChef would give me an experience to at least start learning. So I just dove in. It was reading and looking at the ingredients, thesaurus, and all this stuff.
How did you go from not being able to cook to then winning MasterChef?
It's a competitive spirit in me, I swear, because I'd be like, okay, I need to cook my own dish on Friday. And you learn so much through all the different challenges throughout the week. So I'd learn all these different things. And then by Friday, I had to have practiced my dish at least 3 times. So sometimes I'd stay up all night. And Max would always talk about it being his favorite time, because I'd go for the first dish. It wouldn't go very well. Go for the next one. Go for the third one. And of course, having a baby as well, I'd go for the practice. And it's just at that moment at the end where everything's bubbling. And it's just that point where you got to plate up. And I swear that'd be the time I'd hear the baby screaming. So I'd go up and try and get her back to sleep and feed her and everything, and come back and I'd have burnt my salmon or something would have gone right. And I'd just be in tears. So I'd be like, I have to do it again. So he just loved life because he was eating so much food.
Wow. It's the juggle, incredible juggle with the business and doing these shows and appearing as an actress and things. How do you manage it? I do have a brilliant
film coming up I'm really excited about called The Spin.
You've got a film coming out?
Yeah.
Oh, tell us about that.
It's called The Spin, and it's based about these 2 guys that own a record shop, and the record shop is failing, so they need to save it. So they have to go on this road trip to figure out how they're going to save their record shop. And it's a comedy, and it's just brilliant, directed by Michael Head, and based on a true story of this brilliant guy I met out in Ireland while I was there. And I can't wait. It's coming soon. I think they're doing a press release quite soon as well. But it's called The Spin, so keep a lookout for it.
And which character do you play?
So I play a character called Dallas, who they find on the road.
Can you tell us any more?
I'm spilling no more.
Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
Oh, interesting. I will definitely keep a lookout for that
Yeah,
one.
please
So
do.
that you've been in MasterChef, you've been in The Jump. You also did something pretty amazing for Stand Up to Cancer.
Wow.
You walked the a wire,
the
didn't
wire.
you? Across
I did.
And you did the training for that in Austria.
We went by Innsbruck. Yeah. I was like watching it as I went by, all these memories flooding back from filming The Jump. It was brilliant because we were way 2,500 meters high in this brilliant like training ground. A lot of Olympics people go there to do their training because you're at an altitude. But it was just phenomenal. Like learning to walk a wire. I don't know. You just want to think that it's so easy. It is so difficult to find that space and that mindfulness to be able to take to it and keep your nerve whilst dealing with your pole and weather and the scare of heights and all sorts. It was amazing.
Is there anything that you're scared of?
I remember when there was a volcano that went off and the ash meant that there was no flights between the States and the UK.
Oh, the Icelandic ash cloud?
Yes, exactly.
In 2010?
Oh, my knowledge.
Yeah,
Go on.
I got stuck in the Maldives.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to be stuck.
Well, it's not actually because it's quite expensive to be
right.
stuck there.
Yes, of course.
Wow, so that's what scares
So
you.
it's scared to be somewhere and my family be somewhere else and not be able to get back to them. That scares me.
I was expecting you to say like swimming with sharks or snakes or going to the jungle or something.
I remember doing another show called Don't Rock the Boat. We rode the coast of England and there was a really stormy night and being stuck in the boat and seeing all these crazy waves and it's just complete darkness. The idea of going overboard and getting lost in that's quite scary.
Yeah, that is scary. So what's next for you then, Kimberly?
Oh, what is that? Well, you know,
Well, the
DJing.
film. The film.
DJing is my
Yeah.
life. Like, I've been DJing for 10 years. On honeymoon, we went to Mauritius, which my husband is half Mauritian. Quarter Mauritian, and Indian and all sorts. So it was lovely to go back to Mauritius where he knew some of his roots were from, and it's absolutely stunning. And then went to New York because I had to wait for my visa and everything to go through. So whilst we were in New York, stuck, not knowing when it was all going to come through, took myself to Run DMC's Scratch Academy and sort of went to DJ school. So ever since I've been practicing and DJing and doing like clubs and stuff, but now it's really sort of stepping up to the next level. And I was just supporting Jessica Lynn this past weekend and doing all these lovely festivals and gigs and things. And then the dream was always to sort of also have a
Do you
DJ
do your high
dance
kick
show.
when you're doing your DJ?
Sometimes. Well, Don't You Disco. So I've got Don't You Disco as my DJ dance show. And I've got a couple of dancers and it's choreographed along with me DJing live and whatnot. And that's where you get the kick.
Perfect. So, mixing your passion of music, DJing,
That's it.
dancing.
Running a dance school,
You
films,
just-
I love it all.
Don't stop.
We can't, can we?
Oh,
That's the
Kimberly,
entertainment business.
It's been amazing having you as a guest
Thank
on
you.
the Mile Fly Club. But obviously, we can't have you on the show without asking you, are you a member of the Mile High Club?
I'm too shy for that.
Come on.
I couldn't do it. Oh, the idea.
You can't be a global superstar and not have joined the Mile High Club.
I should just say I am just to feel like a rock star because the idea of it's phenomenal. But the possibility of getting caught in front of a whole plane and not being able to hide anywhere.
Well, some of our guests
Scary.
some of our guests have said they've got it on with cabin crew.
Sharp!
Yeah.
Wow. I love it. I love shenanigans. I just am usually not the one that's able to create the shenanigans.
I don't believe that. If there was a member of the Pussycat Dolls that might be a member of the Mile High Club, could you tell us who it might be?
I wish I could, but I can't. Maybe you could read it through my eyes.
Oh. Kimberly Wyatt, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And good luck with everything you're doing. Keep smashing it.
Thanks, babes.
Hey Mile Fly Club, thanks so much for travelling with me on this episode. For more content like this, please click the subscribe button. And for the full podcast interview, check out the Mile Fly Club on all major audio streaming platforms. See you next week.